friends. It is I, Katie Morton.
And Jennifer Palmer.
I was just saying to Jen, I'm not sure if I'm going to remember how to intro us.
It's been a couple weeks.
It's been a few weeks, so I'm going to take a stab at it. Let's see, we're both intuitives, we're energy healers, and we're spiritual teachers. And together we are divinely guided.
And every Thursday night, well, except for the last 2 Thursdays, we come to you live to answer questions that you might have for your spirit guides.
While my dog snorts and snuffles about in the background and sheds.
Yes.
So, hello.
Are we going to remember how to do this?
I don't know, you guys.
We've already got some messages.
We do.
All right. I think I need to put my glasses on so I can read.
Go for it.
Okay.
So Faye is first up, and she says, any messages for me from spirit or guides? Thank you. Okay, Faye.
So I just heard you're feeling incomplete. It feels that there's something maybe you're searching for, looking for. What they want to remind you of is whatever this is, and it might be multiple things, but I feel like it's one thing in particular. To always remember that, while we're working towards these things that we want in life, it's really important to dive into that process that you're going through in order to achieve it, because mostly we're here for the process. There's certain things that we are meant to do here and achieve here, but it's the process that's most important. So in getting into that space of feeling incomplete and not having something that maybe you would really like to have or to achieve, try not to think so much about the lack of it. Think more about the progress that you've had towards it. And it feels like, just stay in alignment with that.
Yeah, and I was getting also to stay grateful for the spiritual growth, and not just the progress you've made towards whatever it is you want in the manifestation, but really the ascension. It's the time of the ascension. We're here to grow as souls, and ultimately, like, that is the ultimate goal. And as we like to say, well, we don't like to say it, but it's the truth, that catalyst is the greatest cause of growth. And sometimes it's by not getting what we want that we grow the most, because it's triggering. And then we have to heal not getting the thing. And I'm not saying that means you're not going to get the thing. I'm just saying, like, as you're pondering the process and the attitude to hold in the process. And I think often where people can reach the greatest healing is when they say, I really want this thing, but because there are no guarantees, there's a possibility I'm not going to get it. And so if you put yourself in the shoes of, I'm not going to have the thing, a lot of stuff will come up to be healed. So you'll feel upset, you'll feel sad, you'll be afraid you won't get it. You'll think, well, that's not fair if I can't get it. I have to get it. Heal all that stuff. So if you can put yourself there with, like, I might not get it, and really sit with it and heal everything that comes up in that moment, that can push you closer towards that state of unconditional joy, meaning I don't need those conditions to feel joy, because I've healed everything that could arise from not having the thing, and now I don't need the thing. The thing's always nice to have, but it's never, or the person or the situation or whatever it is, of course, it's always wonderful. But it's the idea of, I can be just as happy without it. From a spiritual growth standpoint, that's where you really where we all want to arrive at, is being just as happy without the thing as we would be with the thing. Because it's the idea that heaven is on earth, heaven resides within, heaven is the soul. It's that peace within us that we then layer over with ego and wants and desires and wounds. So if we can travel inside and just really be with the soul and with heaven on earth, we don't need anything outside of ourselves.
Beautiful.
Yay. That is
all. And I've also noticed too that, because when we want something really, really bad, really, really bad, we're really resonating with the idea that we don't have. We don't have that thing, whatever it is, and we want that thing, and it is outside of us. And the more we want, the more we're resonating with the idea of we don't have. And that can often push things away as well. So just energetically speaking, in the manifestation process, if you're wanting too much, you might actually be pushing it away. So it's coming into balance with this idea of, what is it I'm meant to learn in this process, and would it be nice to have, and could I live without it? And when you're in balance with all of those things, then it seems to appear much more easily.
Yeah, and they're just bringing up the phrase desiring without attachment. So something to ponder.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. Laura Ernaway says, "Hi, lady. Hi, ladies. Hi."
It's more than one.
It's more. Hi, ladies. Any messages for me? Any messages for me? Okay.
Let's see what we get. So I just heard 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. And I actually saw a vision. It was like dancing, and like you were dancing 3 steps forward and then dancing 2 steps back, and forward and back, forward and back. So I guess what they're trying to say is there's been progress in life, but it's been jumping forward, then stepping back, then jumping forward, then stepping back. And maybe it's frustrating and doesn't feel like as much progress as you would like. And I'm not sure what this is about. I'm not getting a topic. It might be relationships. I'm feeling drawn towards relationships.
Well, I'll tell you the image I was experiencing. So I heard at first, it runs deep, and it was like through the heart center. It was sort of like this deep cavern, and then they said a river runs through it. And then there was an image of a fly fisherman on a river, and they were casting, and they weren't having much luck. And then they got a bite, and then they lost the bite. And it was like the fly swung back. Like
it is frustrating.
Yeah. It was like it popped out of the fish's mouth, and the line came flying back, and it was like, yeah, it was like the disappointment of like, I think I want to, there's a fish on the line. I think I got it. And then the fish spit it out or whatever. And it's the idea was trout fishing, because trout are smart and they're tricky little suckers to catch. But also when you were saying 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, it was like the idea of the patience of the fisherman too, of just like, it's enjoyable in a way to be out there in the river, but it's also goal oriented. And so while the process itself is nice, it's like, it would also be nice to catch a fish. But I did feel like when you were saying 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, it was the idea of, sort of like you are somehow making progress even within that.
I'm also getting connected to your solar plexus. So there's the heart and solar plexus. So I don't know if there are things that maybe you wanted to speak up about, or to do, or to approach in a relationship of some sort. And it just kind of feels like this is part of the process of you being able to fully express and say things and do things and be who you are in relation with others.
Okay, so I just heard like a big okay, so the idea that fish are tricky and like feeling the need to strategize, but it's not. It's like, no, just be yourself. Like, let's destroy the fishing narrative for a minute, and this like being authentic and not having to like be so strategic. Well, I guess and also I'm feeling like the idea to know the difference of when, because sometimes we do need to be strategic with people, and we can't necessarily always just wear our hearts on our sleeves. It's not always appropriate. So it's knowing that, walking the line and knowing that balance of how to be fully and completely authentic, at least with yourself. And so then knowing the difference between who's safe to be fully authentic with and who you need to be more strategic with, and when it's appropriate. And also the idea of knowing that when we're choosing friends and choosing relationships and choosing who to surround ourselves with, if there is somebody that we need to be overly tricky and strategic with, that they might not be the best fit.
Well, I was also getting to, they actually said you have a very sweet heart. You have a very tender, sweet, loving heart. I also get the sense that you may not want to always speak your mind because you're trying to keep the peace. You're trying to not lose that person's love, whoever it is. And the idea is that you are learning how to speak your truth and speak your need in a way that's very loving and connected and unconditionally present and loving, where the person can more easily accept what your needs are. And it's a balance, and people often swing from being too sweet and too kind and too martyr, too much of a martyr, over to the other side of having really hard boundaries and smacking back and just kind of like not able to take it, and then you lose the friendship. So there is a way off of that pendulum, and it is in a higher space of this unconditionally loving space, being able to say what is coming and what is true, but also still being open to hearing response and out of ego. And ego is so much a part of a lot of this, and we all have to contend with that and figure out how that fits into where we are in our process. But I also want to give you, I guess kudos. Speaking of ego, I want to give you kudos. It feels that you're working it, and you've been.
My dog is shoving her face in the middle here.
You've been working it, and you've been in this process doing a good job at it. As our guides usually like to say, you're nailing it. That is not my belly. That is the dog snorting. Thanks, sweetie. And I'm not really getting anything else. They just really wanted you to end on that good note, knowing that you're doing well with it. Try not to get frustrated with the back and forth and, the little bit of progress. And I heard shift soon. So I think something's going to be shifting with this soon. I hope that helps.
Yay. Okay, cool. Let's see. Kimberly Stern says, hi, ladies. I did it again. Hi, ladies. Any messages for me? Okay.
So the first image I'm having, I'm just going to say it because I don't know what you're getting at, but it might make sense. At first I thought I was seeing smoke, but then I heard the word fog, and I just felt that, and everything was black and white, and trying to look in through this fog of this black and white scene, whatever it was. It almost looked like woods or something, but it was, I felt like I was watching a black and white film, and there was fog. So I think what's coming with this, what I'm getting is, a lot of times we like to see things as black or white. It's this or that. It's very, it has to be this, or it has to be that, or it has to be that over there. It cannot be anything in between, because it makes us feel secure. I feel like there's something to do with this. But at the same time, this fog, I feel like it's showing me that like nothing's really making sense. It just feels very muddy, foggy. None of those really make sense, but it's still too scary to think that it could be something in between, or a mix of all of the above. And what they're saying is, most times in life, it's not black or white. It's somewhere in the middle. It is a gray. It's a spectrum of answer, whatever the answer is. It's we need to get out of the way of thinking of one or the other.
Yeah, they want me to offer an example of in a situation, like let's say, all right, they're just like, spit it out. Okay, let's say there's a social media video and it goes out, and then, then the world goes, they start fighting about the contents of the video. This happens a lot.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. And basically what they were showing me was in there was one particular video that happened. It was a while back, but it was the idea that I remember being struck by watching that particular video, the one that they're bringing up. And the idea was that what the world was trying to do was to decide this person's a good guy and this person's the bad guy. And depending on like your certain perspective and how you were taking in the information and processing it, it was like was it the gold dress versus the blue dress?
Yes.
It was like that.
That was fascinating.
The way it was coming out about, but this was a different video. It was a social interaction that went awry. And you saw there's certain people had a certain perspective of like, this is the bad guy and that's the good guy. And then different folks thought it was the opposite. And there was no consensus about it. When I watched the video, I was like, they're both the bad guy. And people don't generally, like I was watching that video, I'm like, that is two emotionally immature people who were both wrong, basically. It was like somebody did something wrong and then the other person decided to top the other person's wrong, was sort of how that video went. And it wasn't one of the more famous videos. You probably haven't even seen it, so don't try to guess which one it was. But it was just like this idea of there isn't always a good guy and a bad guy. Like even, you know, that's a black and white that people tend to, they want to believe that that's the way the world works. And it's like, sometimes there's two good guys. Sometimes there's two bad guys. Sometimes both people are gray. It's like in between and you don't know like which it is. And it's like the idea of we have to stop always trying to jump to conclusions and immediately categorize everyone as, you know, good or bad. Like most people are gray. Most people are somewhere in the middle because there are very few people who are like, the return of Christ. Oh, there it is. There's one good person on the planet. You know what I mean? Like most of us are a mixed bag. So we all do our best.
I'm just trying to see if there's anything else. I feel like they're also saying on a totally separate note, they would like for you to work more with intuition and develop your intuition even more. I'm not sure where you're at with it or how much you've done with it. But I feel like that they want that to open more. And I do feel that, you know, higher wisdom is I feel like it's starting to really stream through for you. And maybe it has been, but maybe even more right now. And the more you open, you know, the brow chakra, the more the wisdom is going to come through. But also too, to remember, you know, we all have the more egoic side of the way we process things. Then we also have more on the other end of that spectrum is the more soulful side of how we process things. And to just remember that as things are happening in life or as you're getting information or intuitive hits, whatever it is, try more and more to be conscious of processing over on the more soulful side because you're going to get more wisdom from that space. Most people process from the more egoic side of things on that spectrum. So just think about that and notice when you're doing it more from a soulful space versus the egoic space and see the difference in the integrity of the information and the value of the information and how it helps you or doesn't help you. I feel it's a really important, and I also feel like you might be teaching some of these things. Like I hear teacher with you.
And I also feel like they just want to add with what Jenn is saying through that process, you're going to get much more clarity with all that foggy, murky stuff we were seeing earlier. It's like that's how you get your clarity is going to be via intuition, because a lot of times we are looking for clarity through facts in the world. It's the last place you're going to find it.
Yeah, I think just in general the energies right now with how things are coming in and where we're at in the ascension process with humanity and everything else, we're in a space where we need to rise up and get into a much higher wisdom space to make sense of anything.
Yeah, for reals, y'all.
All right.
All right. You read Jess Mac?
Jess Mac!
Hi, Jess Mac.
Good evening, ladies.
She said it right.
Hope you both are doing good. Any messages for me? Thanks.
Cool. So I just heard you saying, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. Okay. Well, and I'm also hearing a lot of what Jen just said to Kimberly about intuitive development is going to help you also get the clarity you're seeking with what actions to take. Look, I'm asking my guides all day long, like, what should I eat? When should I take a shower? Like, what should I wear on the live? And they're like, we have this wacky thing. And I'm like, okay. You don't always get the answer you want, but you get the answer you need.
That's so true. So I'm trying to figure out, I heard them say invitation to delete, and I'm not sure yet what that means, but I'm going to throw it out there in case it means anything to you.
Invitation to delete?
Yes, like you're being invited to delete something. Okay. It's just a weird phrase. I've never heard it put that way. Mm. It kind of feels like, as I'm feeling into it, so I'm just going to say, because I'm getting it as a feeling, so I think I'm hitting the nail on the head, but just take it for what it's worth, because I'm not hearing it, so it's more of a feeling. But it feels that, there are probably things going on in your life that are not necessarily fulfilling you or supporting you in your mission and what you're actually here to do, even if you don't really know what it is. It's extraneous waste of time, basically. Putting your energies into things that maybe aren't giving a return for your purpose here and what you're trying to accomplish. Not that every minute of every day needs to be spent doing only productive things or, to get out of that mindset, but it could be simply as spending an extra 30 minutes meditating or journaling or something to go within and go deep versus, watching a show or, reading a book or something. It's like, what is the best use of your time? And sometimes it is just downtime. And sometimes you need that too, but it's like just questioning that. I feel like it's the invitation to delete is an invitation to delete the things in your life that are noise, that it's not really serving a purpose. I just heard yes, please. And what happens is sometimes when we have the extra space in our lives, the extra time, believe it or not, it's kind of scary.
I was getting that. Yeah.
There's a lot, that we are doing to keep our minds preoccupied so we don't have to go deep about something or reveal something to ourselves or even approach something like our mission because, well, I'm too busy doing these other things. I just don't have time. Well,
yeah. So what I was feeling into about it was exactly that, like this idea of if I sit down and give it 30 minutes of meditation or journaling or whatever to figure out what it is, because the first thing they said to me was, I don't know what to do, but there's also a real resistance to knowing, the fear of getting on the path of the soul's mission. And there's going to be like, it feels a lot like fear of failure. What if I get on the path and it fizzles and it doesn't take off, or I don't do it right, or nothing happens, or whatever, I'm disappointed in it, or they're going to tell me to do something I don't like, that something like that. Anyway, it's like, so process all of that and move through the resistance and take the time. We all have to take the time to call ourselves out on our own BS, because we all have some.
Yeah, we just did a retreat, and one of the topics of conversation was just about our excuses. What are we using as an excuse to not do what we are here to do? And we all do it.
Yeah, and it really requires radical honesty for us to be able to see because we love our excuses. They keep us safe.
Well, we're usually blind to them too. Like we just don't see it.
Well, here's the thing, because what we think we think they're reasons. We don't realize they're excuses. We believe that they are reasons. And so we just think, well, because blah, blah, blah. Well, is it a reason or is it an excuse? It's probably an excuse that's masquerading as a reason.
Yeah. We've never done that.
No, I didn't. I don't even know where that content welled up from.
Anyway. All right.
Good times. All right, Danielle Lear says, good evening, beautifuls. She said beautifuls. Thanks, Danielle. Right back at you. Okay, hope you had fun on the retreat. We did. Been having a lot of trouble lately, mostly mentally. Any messages or guidance?
Well, the first things I'm hearing are, and I know there's more, but I'm going to say it so I don't forget it. You are a beautiful soul, and there's times when you're not trusting yourself enough, and then there's times that you're just kind of giving your power away to others, and expecting the validation to come from others, and you don't need that. You don't need validation from anybody else. You are amazing. You're talented. You've got beautiful gifts, and they want you to really let go of the other stuff. Just let go of other people's expectations, of other people's thoughts about you, worrying about what other people may be thinking or feeling about you, and just come really into center and connect with deeply who you are and that beauty, and really come into that unconditional loving space aligned within. You are God, God is you. You are connected to everything and everybody, and it's all beautiful, and really deeply feel that about you. The perfection that you are. And yeah, we all have work to do, right? We're all doing our stuff and trying to figure things out and bumping against each other, right? We do. We're human. But come back to love.
Came here in these.
Oh my gosh, it drives me crazy.
Silly meat suits, so we can run into each other like bumper cars.
But come back into who you really are. As soon as you can think to get out of the egoic persona space for just a moment and come within, reconnect, get aligned, and then try to come to a better, wiser space.
Yeah, and I'm also hearing to use your gift of energy healing. Like they really want you to come into your own with that and unleash your power with it. And in your spare time to use it to heal humanity, the planet, the world. Like I just feel like it's great practice. It moves the energy. And when I say practice, I don't mean like, oh, you need practice. Like it's a great daily methodology. You know what I mean? A daily practice, like something to do every day to work on doing what we came here to do for the ascension, which is to help heal humanity. And so all the time, if I'm having struggles, what I'll do is I'll heal it for myself, but I'll also heal it for every being in the universe. So working on using your gift beyond your self-healing as well, and it's going to help you to feel really, really great about yourself too. I feel like it'll help you really understand how powerful you are, that you can move planetary energy. And getting over the doubt about it too, because I feel like there was like a little bit of like,
I'm not really getting anything else. Just really coming into love, but love of self, that deep, unconditional, godly kind of love to really come within. I feel like it's really important for you right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing about that is I know that can be hard for people to hear sometimes, because especially when we have a wounded heart and we want somebody else's love and validation to like fix it for us. Well, if I could just get love externally, then this wouldn't be a problem. And we have it backwards because we can't get the right love if we're not self-loving and self-accepting. Then we're going to keep winding up in relationships that are just pummeling the heart, and they're punishing and they're withholding, because when we're withholding from ourselves, we're going to wind up creating that and manifesting a partner who withholds. So really learn to give to yourself as just such a beautiful healing gift to yourself, with the idea in the back of the mind, not in the forefront, but in the back of the mind, that this is the work that prepares you to be a good partner and to have a good partner. And that until that work is done, external love is going to ultimately be unfulfilling anyway. It's not ever going to fill that hole in the heart that can only be filled via self-love, that we've been wrongly programmed to think the hole will be filled with via, the silly Disney romance story. And it's just false programming. And we have to self-love and become fiercely self-loving and independent before we can wind up with a really good and equally giving relationship and partnership. And they were just showing me the idea of, like, otherwise all that love you're trying to pour onto somebody else, it gets like poured onto the ground. It's like you gotta fill this first.
And that's true of every relationship. Like, the more you come into center, the more you love, and not in like a, oh, I'm all that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Just like, I love who I am. I'm this beautiful person inside and out who is just doing her very best and is going to keep continuing to keep trying to do her very best. And I'm going to love everybody else for doing their very best. And so there's this just feeling of, it's a higher space, it's a higher vibration. And the people around you start shifting how they respond. So it's good. All right, I think that's it.
Yes, indeed. Okay, Shawnee Nicole Drake says, good evening, ladies. Any messages today from my guides? Thanks.
Hello, Shawnee.
Hi. Good to see you. Well, we can't really see you, just your little picture. Okay.
So I got this feeling that it was around like the intuitive development, that your growth and what you're trying to do right now. It's more than intuitive development. It's what you're stepping into. And I saw this woman, I think it's a guide, but she was just like, yay! She was really excited. So much more to come. So it's this feeling of, you're kind of poking some holes in the dam right now, and some things are starting to pour through, but it's going to be a gush of skill coming in. I really feel like it's going to happen kind of quickly, and maybe even a little suddenly. You're going to be like, whoa, how did all that happen?
Yeah, I keep hearing Reiki attunement. So that can do it it does it for a lot of people. And I do feel like very seriously consider getting trained in Reiki, getting attuned. And also to use it for the self-healing work as well.
Guys, it is, and this is, I think, for just all of you. We firmly believe everybody should be getting energy healing and doing consciousness work. It's really what we're here to do. We're here to heal things and become aware, know ourselves, know more about ourselves, get deeper and deeper and deeper and higher in wisdom. And so many times people aren't doing that, or they might do a piece of that. It's everything, and if you can apply the consciousness work along with healing, you can move mountains. Really do make changes in your lives. And I feel like, Shawnee, they're saying that you are meant to help facilitate these changes in others. So part of it too is, none of us are perfect. We all have our own work to do, our own baggage and deep, dark shadows to look at, whatever it is. And to make sure that you're doing that, while you're learning and approaching the idea of doing these types of things to facilitate for others. Don't be afraid of facilitating and healing in tandem, because I feel like things are going to open up so fast for you that you're probably going to be doing some of that. So don't be afraid of that. You don't need to be an expert to try to help somebody. You don't try to step into something that maybe you don't know enough about, but at the same time, don't be afraid to start feeling in and playing with the facilitation of the healing. And that process is different for each person. So if someone else is hearing this, this may not necessarily be for you, because some people need to do a lot of healing before they begin doing the facilitation. But Shawnee, I feel like yours is going to happen so fast. It's just, don't be afraid to jump in and also heal and also help others. And it's like, it's in helping others, you're going to be helping yourself, and in helping yourself, then you're helping others. It just feels like it's a natural progression for you in that process. And it happens pretty quickly. Now I just saw your dog. I know you have a little doggy, a little cute little doggy, that just flashed in my head. So let me see what that's about.
And just while she's seeing what that's about, I was also feeling like a little bit of resistance with you with helping to heal others at this point. The fear, it was like the idea that something could go wrong, or like you could open something up for somebody that then you don't know how to put it back in the box. Like, we have a healing that sometimes can go like, I don't know. And it's sort of like, don't be afraid and work through that. And just also know too, that when you're doing healing work and facilitating healing work for other people, the guides are helping, and generally speaking, what's supposed to happen will happen, and they will help.
I am feeling like, I think with the dog, I think it is related to the healing. I think what you're going to find is your dog is going to really love receiving healing. I don't know if there's some sort of a health issue or concern with him, or maybe there will be, I'm not sure. But I am getting, like, I see you giving the dog healing. And I think that's it.
That is all. Excellent. All right. Kathleen Wright.
I love some guidance, please, on love life.
All right, Kathleen Wright. Love life.
Okay, so immediately I'm feeling, well, I saw an image. It was like a shield. And this feeling of like, I want it, but no. I want it, but no. I want it. No. So, this idea of wanting to have the experience of love and deep connection and vulnerability, but at the same time, there's some fear there. Past wounding and hurt that I think really needs to be addressed and healed.
Yeah, I'm hearing if you think of opening your heart and really deeply connecting with someone, what does come up for you? What are those fears? Like, kind of diving in and really looking at them. What are your worst cases, and then work on healing that and coming to peace with that.
Most people have, I don't know why, I think this is just for all of us, but most people have shielding up in some way, in some form. Maybe it's towards certain types of situations or people or whatever. And sometimes, that's helpful, especially where we're at in our progress. If we're not able to have proper boundaries and things, then a shield really helps. So when you're questioning, what is your shield? What are you shielding from and everything else? Question your boundaries, and are you able to speak up when you need to and draw healthy boundaries in a loving way? How hard is that for you to speak up or to when you draw boundaries, is it too harsh? Look at all of that. That's all connected. And I heard the word authenticity, and I think there's some self-love stuff there too. We often are not authentic because we don't deeply love who we are and our expression of who we are. And so then we pretend like we're trying to be somebody else, or we block people from seeing the real deep us. I think that's also something that needs to come up, to be worked on and healed and addressed. Not that you're not being totally authentic, but there's parts of you that you just don't put out there.
I'm also getting there's something about like wanting to be noticed and not feeling noticed. And it's the idea of then notice yourself. So this sort of goes along with what we said to somebody, I don't remember now, earlier about love life and the idea, it was to Danielle, but it was the idea of, so it's similar but different, what we said to her, which is, we manifest what's inside. So it's like, if you're wanting to be noticed, it's like you're not giving yourself enough attention. And so putting that, like, I'm going to notice myself then, and putting in that sort of the time and attention. What they showed me was you like a little bit done up, like, you had a lipstick and you were sort of like sauntering about, because it was like, I'm going to notice me then. And it was like through that, they would notice you.
Looking mighty fine there, Jennifer.
Yeah, so
the dog thinks so too.
The dog grunts in approval. Yeah, so giving yourself the attention that you're desiring from outside of you, so that then you will manifest the attention that you so desire from someone else, but by giving it to yourself first.
Yeah. And that's all I'm getting. Yeah, I'm not getting anything else. Very good.
Okay. Amy
Money.
Money. Okay. Hi, let's see. I just did it. We didn't even resist. I just did it. Okay. She says, "Hi, ladies. Good to see you again. Any messages for me?"
So what I'm getting is working manifestation. I don't know if you are familiar with that practice or haven't, if you've really delved into it. They want you delving into it. And there's a lot of different teachers out there, that you could find even free on YouTube. And I think there's going to be a couple that really resonate with you, and probably some that maybe don't, or maybe you're not ready for yet.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that's an initial recommendation to look into. I think a guy named Brian Scott did some videos about a manifestation teacher called Neville Goddard. So if you look up Brian Scott on Neville Goddard, that's a good place to look. It's a little bit beyond the basics and the norm. It's a little going deeper into the teachings. I should say a lot beyond the basics and the norm. It does go much deeper into the teachings. So the other thing they want me to talk about, which I don't think you can find now on YouTube, I think it's disappeared, but there was a Russian physicist named Vadim Zeland who had put out some material that I consumed pretty thoroughly. And he really talks about the quantum physics of manifestation. And they just want me to share a little bit briefly about what he would talk about. And it's the idea of So he uses the term pendulums, which we find confusing because we talk about pendulums more in the Hermetic sense, but he talks about, I don't know why, maybe it's a translation issue from the Russian because I know he's not an English speaker, but what he means is groups, big groups of people will vibrate. And so because this is a big force, it's a big group of people vibrating in a certain way about a certain issue, we tend to get sucked towards pendulums of people and groups. And so it's being really cognizant of that in our efforts to manifest, is to really, really get deep on, well, what am I thinking and feeling about particular issues? Because if there's a group who's vibrating at a lower rate, not a real ideal way, and they're pulling towards them certain timelines, like let's say, I'll use the example, I don't think this is an issue for you, but I'll just use it as a simple example. Like if somebody is broke as a joke and they have a lot of fear on it and a lot of like bad money stuff, and so they vibrate with this group of people who has all this bad money stuff, and then they call all these negative timelines to them. And so ultimately what we want to do is heal all our issues and do all the consciousness work so that we can vibe up to a different pendulum where we're pulling in positive timelines that are going to match this higher vibration. And just knowing that when we have wounds, we can think sometimes we're vibing up here. If there's something in our subconscious, we might not even be consciously aware of it. We wind up on this lower pendulum. So it's really what we are manifesting is a sign of how we're vibing. And if you don't like what you're manifesting, it's like, look at the issue and heal it so that you can raise your vibration and vibe with a group of people that's better off in like whatever area this is. And there's like one more issue they want me to talk about, and that's the idea that, oh, I just lost it. Hang on. Where was it? Maybe it wasn't important. All right, I'm gonna let it go, and if it comes back, I'll say it's important. Sometimes, we were just saying earlier today, sometimes if we're not supposed to say something, the guides will just like snatch it out of our brain. Happens. It does happen. Oh, okay, yeah. So it's the idea of what we're trying to achieve and vibrate towards has to be very much aligned with the truth. If we have distortions that's not aligned with the truth, we can think we're doing everything right, but if we're not assessing the situation accurately, the universe will sort of like, it often will give us a nasty surprise. It's like this big shock because we didn't see the truth of who someone is or what a situation is really like. And then it'll be taken from us. And so these distortions can be like over attachment, for example, or it can be not assessing the situation accurately. So what Vidam Zealand says is, especially in this situation where we have a lot of attachment, so there's a lot of charged emotion around it and we want it very badly, combined with not seeing the situation accurately, is really a recipe for disaster. It's a big recipe for disappointment. So we always need to strive to see, because he said truth always wins. It will always come to light. The truth will always come to light. And so he said, when we have a distortion against truth and we want something really badly and there's an untruthful distortion there, it's like the worst recipe. So if we can detach and hold our desires lightly, and if we can get really aligned with truth, we're going to just be a lot better positioned when it comes to manifestation.
Nice.
I think that is it.
Yeah, very good.
Okay. Sharon McNichol says, hi, ladies. Missed you. Missed you too, Sharon. Anything from my guides tonight?
So I'm immediately getting this feeling of, and I saw an image of like check marks. I'm getting a feeling of there's like something that you want to have happen in your life, but this is feeling like, well, that's not quite done. And that's, it's like we were talking about earlier, it's your for something not coming to be. It's funny, it reminds me of, oh, it's saying we're having connection issues. Okay, I think we're having connection issues, guys. I hope you can still hear
Usually
us.
when that happens, I'll watch the replay and it's like a brief blip. We're probably fine. Good. All right.
Oh gosh, what was I saying? I'm losing the thread.
Guys.
Sharon McNichol. Oh, the check marks. Okay, so a lot of times it reminds me of, when some people say, when are we going to have a baby? Um, well, there's never a perfect time to actually have a baby. You might try to get your finances in order. You might think you're trying to get ready, but maybe you're really not. You might be more ready than the neighbor was down the street, but you're still not ready. When is the right time? I don't know if there's ever a right time. Sometimes there's better times than others, but to not judge timing based, and when you should do something based on the check marks, do it based more on the feeling and knowing within. But also with a caveat of, we often say a wounded heart makes for a crappy GPS. So it really does.
Yeah.
Really get aligned, get out of wounding, get into your higher soul space as much as possible. Not an egoic space, not in that hurt-filled space, but in a space where you can see higher wisdom and higher understandings and knowings, and then come to whatever that conclusion is. But not to base everything on how it's looking on the surface.
All right, so Sharon, I don't know if this is for you in particular. I think this is more like a group message, but they wanted me to discuss moral relativism for a second. That's something my guides like to talk about. Is that often what we do when we're trying to assess, like, how am I doing with this soul growth, with this ascension business? Am I a good person? Am I a bad person? Often what we will do is, because we're humans, we'll compare ourselves to other people and be like, well, if I look at that train wreck over there, I'm looking pretty good. And what my guides always warn me against that, because when people use moral relativism, it results in the complete decline and destruction of society. Because if we're always just looking at, like, well, so-and-so's to say douchebag, sorry. That's what was coming up. If I say, well, that guy's that, and like, I'm not nearly that bad, then we give ourselves all these excuses to like not behave well, or to not do what we know is in like the highest moral authority, or like what would really actually be considered good in the eyes of God, kind of a thing. We tend to then just compare ourselves to like the yokel down the street, which is not always the best benchmark. So what we need to do is really just get within. Don't compare ourselves to other people when we're trying to figure out if we're doing it right. Are we nailing it? Are we screwing it up? It has to be based on some sort of an internal knowing, as opposed to like making excuses. Like, well, that guy sucks, so I'm not so bad. That's sort of making excuses for maybe wrong thinking and bad behaviors. And so when we're looking to, we always need to be looking to align with the highest truth of right thought, right being, right doing, right action, all of that, and not using the people around us in our lives as a benchmark, because they're not the moral authority of whether we're nailing it or not. It has to come from this inner knowing of really being truthful with ourselves and assessing, am I doing this right? Or am I making excuses for bad behavior? I think that's on again. So again, I'm not calling you out, Sharon. I think that's for everybody.
Yeah, seriously.
Because people do it.
We all do.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
That either. Okay. Rachel?
Yeah. Rachel Rose Farber.
Hi, Rachel.
Question. Should I move to Cambridge, Massachusetts in summer 2022, or any other messages? Thanks.
Okay.
What I'm feeling with that is not to make that decision right now. I feel like something better is coming along.
Mm.
And it's not a hard no.
Yeah, I was just hearing don't decide yet.
Mhm.
And I was getting, it's a long way off. And I feel like a lot's going to happen between now and then.
Mhm.
And you just might be in a different place in your life where it might not be right for you by that time.
So I'm also getting this, and it's funny. I was just having this conversation with somebody else. I used to be such a planner. I would plan 5, 10 years out. I had this plan, this master plan. As soon as I got into spiritual work and my mission, that plan never works. It just doesn't. And I end up taking more time and things take longer because I'm trying to enforce my plan, but I'm not just flowing enough with what's showing up in front of me. Not that you need to just like fly in the breeze and let everything take you where it wants it to take you. But getting really deeply connected with your soul mission and your purpose and that connection with God and the all it is. And then just what's the next step? All right, here we go. What's the next step? Ah, okay. What's the next step? What? Are you sure?
Do I have to?
Okay.
Fine.
All right. Yay! What's the next step? Like I only can see 5 feet in front of me, not 5 years in front of me, and I'm okay with that now. And that used to really bother me. I feel like they want you practicing that.
Yeah, and I'm hearing within doing the healing work. Yeah, because it's like the idea of don't just try to fly by the seat of your pants without really getting deep with the healing work, because the flowing has to be via guidance, which we can't get from an unhealed space. We can't get good, accurate guidance from an unhealed space. So it does feel like really getting into the practice of, if you're not already, daily journaling, really witnessing the thoughts. And in any situation in our lives, it's very tempting to, blame the other guy, because when we have difficulties, of course it's their fault, But really getting into ownership of, okay, so I came here as a soul, I created this situation. Why? What's my part in it? What's my piece in it? And what's my personal responsibility in it? And that's difficult work, because it requires admitting that that we do have work to do, that we're not perfect. And so a lot of people struggle with the shame and the humiliation of that, of owning responsibility, especially when we've been victimized, because it's scary to offer any type of responsibility in a situation when we've been victimized, because then it feels like we're victim blaming. So, but in order to grow, we often do need to figure out how we contributed to a situation, even if it was just because we were carrying a sort of like shrunken energy that invited attack. It's like even just owning that piece of it, or whatever it looks like for you. So anyway, I'm just giving an example of it, not getting into your exact business with it, but it's like you being able to fearlessly just look at every area of your life and how you contributed to scenarios that were perhaps not ideal or uncomfortable, so that you can come to higher perspectives and a more healed and empowered space with it, and to make much better decisions and choices moving forward.
Yeah, a good rule of thumb is if you think of something like something that's happened to you and you still have any kind of charge around it, like you get upset or mad or whatever it is, or in fear, it's not healed. There's, generally speaking, probably more to do. And then I would dig into what is that? Like, why do I feel angry about that? What about that in particular makes me angry or upsets me or whatever? And you just keep asking why until you get down to the most core root you can get to of the purpose and reason for it, and then you can heal. And I think that's it.
I think that is all.
All right, guys.
All right, you guys. It is the ball game. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we do private readings and also energy healing if you feel that that would be beneficial for you to have a full service. We do half hour, 45 minute, and 60 minutes. So if that seems like something that you could use, just drop us a message. Also, we have our soul growth group. It's awesome.
Yeah,
we're meeting twice a month on Zoom right now.
Mm-hmm.
So feel free to check it out.
Divinelyguided.tv for more details on soul growth group.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, have a great night, guys.
Want to boop the end button?
I can do it this time. All right, I'm booping. Bye, guys.
Bye.